let's, are we on there now? Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, shall we go through our introductions and starting with Mr. Pence at the end of the table?
Sure. Daniel Pence, General Registrar, Director of Elections, City Election.
Nancy Davis, Deputy Registrar.
Julie Brown, Deputy Registrar.
Patty Gibbs, Secretary of the Electoral Board.
David Levy, Chairman of the Electoral Board.
The Troxel, Vice Chair of the Electoral Board.
Roz Webb, citizen.
Judy Farah, citizen.
Cora Separati, citizen.
Yusuf Arati, I'm a fan of David Levy.
Only if you don't want me over.
You can start loving it.
Carolyn Sherrico, citizen.
Molly McLennan, citizen.
Mark Hand, citizen reporter.
Jeff Rosner, Democratic Committee Authorized Representative and Voter Protection Liaison.
Okay, we have the agenda in front of us. Are there any additional items, Mr. Proctor? You may have an additional item.
I just thought that we would, I know the ballot order is going to be mentioned in the registrar's report, but I thought we might put something under new business in case we need to discuss it.
Okay, may we add that to the agenda? I think also the registrar would like us to just address the training situation that's coming up. For this. And in our materials, he has a diagram that gives some idea of what we need to plan for. So we'll put that as H. Okay. Okay, we have the minutes of July 25th that have been handed out. Has the board reviewed these minutes?
I just looked at it.
You know, any unread, Betty, of course, wrote them.
I've reviewed them once or twice.
Okay. I reviewed them. Do I have a motion on the minutes?
I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Pass. Okay. Moving on to the next item. Any announcements?
Mine are included in my registrar's report.
Anyone else? Okay, let's move on to the registrar's office. Registrar's office report. Gary?
Okay. Let's see. Changing. If I do this. Well, it seems to be stuck. Oh, got it. There we go.
I would unshare your screen. Share.
Okay, let me unshare and reshare, see if that will help us here. Share screen. This. Okay, there we go, that's better. And let me try and make it a little nicer to read. Well. It doesn't seem to be looking like letting it go into slideshow. But let me make sure, try this one more time, folks. Okay, well, it's a little better. Still Registrar report for September 5th, 2024. And just as I get into this, if you have a phone or tablet, and you want to follow on this on your own, it is up on the website, so you can go to the electoral board section of my website at the this meeting, and you'll see the registrar report is there. It's in PDF format. Okay, we'll have some statistical reports, budgetary reports, ongoing projects, and then a couple of announcements and recommendations. I also am going to be talking about the ballot order, and having the board look over what our numbers look like, are projected to be, and giving them some suggestions about how we might arrange our ballot order for this November election. This is one of the statistical reports. It's registrant counts by locality. Essentially, this is just telling us how many active, inactive total voters we have in each precinct. It also breaks out military and overseas and federal voters. I will say that with this election coming up, we have been getting quite a few overseas and military FPCA applications in. Nancy's got her hands full. She's handling almost all of those. So she can tell you from personal experience that we're definitely getting a lot of interest from those who are overseas, military and non-military. Any questions on the numbers that you see on this slide? Sorry, it's a little small. If I want me to switch back to the other view, maybe it's better.
Dan, if you go to display settings, can you get rid of that next slide thing? Maybe.
Yeah, I could share. Let me share this. This might be a little bit bigger. I don't know why it's not letting me share with the two different sides. Is that a little, maybe I can I kill the side here? Just get rid of it. Down the bottom, kill it over here.
One all the way by the line sign.
This one here. Yeah, see, it's not letting it go into display mode for some reason.
What about, what's that, 68%? Drag that thing up.
Yeah, make it bigger. That's a good idea. But I don't, well, I get too big, it goes off the screen, right? So let's just make it as big as I can and stay on the screen, right? How about like that? That gets about the best I can do. Anyway, so that's the next slide. This is the slide that we're on. Any questions on this slide? Okay. This is the locality statistics. The goal of this one is to show what we have at the beginning of each month in each precinct and what the end total after, all of the net changes in and out is. And so you can see essentially we have some precincts that continue to grow. 302, we did get a number of Liberty students who registered this round, and so you see another about an uptick of about 100 there showing here. And we have other precincts, 305, 401, 402, 403, 404, all upticking by a bit, as well as 101 also giving an uptick. So not unexpected with a presidential election coming up, but just that's where we stand per precinct. Any questions on this slide? Okay. Statistical registration report, for the National Voter Registration Act. This just shows the source of different registrations. You can see, as always, our DMV number is the highest. It's not as big as July, because in July we were catching up, remember, from the election in June and the blackout period. But in August, we back, it's a little better than the normal rate as we come into this next election. I expect we'll see this very similar in September and October. I think people just pay more attention at the DMV to voter registration. We also
Now that's running.
Sorry, now the third party drive is a little higher. That's because of registrations that have come in from the also. And that brings our totals, like you see down at the bottom, 3108 for this month. And that's this is largely a measure of kind of the registration work that gets done every month by the registrar's office. Questions on this slide? Okay, sorry, this is also smaller, easier to see in your tablet if you have that. But essentially, this is where we stand for our budget. As you know, we're on a fiscal year rolled over beginning in July 1. And so we are now into that budget. I did inquire with the finance department if we were going to get any carryover funds from that tranche that we got at the end of the last year. And of course, the answer is no. But we managed to spend pretty much all of it anyway, so I think we were okay. One thing that you will notice, not so much on this page, but down at the bottom of the page with the electoral board's budget showing is we do have a line here at the bottom, specific use equipment, and this is where the $143,000 that we got for the new voting machines, the new ballot scanners comes in. And actually, I just went ahead and paid that invoice, so we have those scanners all in the hand. It's a total of 24 that we've purchased so far. We have one voter on hand, so we have 25 total. And that is the plan that we are going into this election with that scanners.
So Dan, was that equipment purchase expensed in the last fiscal year?
So the reason it's showing here is because it actually carries over into this fiscal year. So when I asked them what carries over, anything that has a PO in the previous year and was, approved in the previous year, if it's not spent against that PO, it does carry over. So that's why it shows here. Just highlight that and show that that's here and let you know that that's being spent. It's been allocated and spent, and we have the equipment.
So basically, the figures you've given us are a completed fiscal year. Is that correct?
This is actually the beginning of the next fiscal year. So if you look at, for example, the percentage of budget that's spent, which is the next to the last column, let me go back up to the previous, first two columns, sorry. You look on the right-hand side, you can see we spent very, very little so far of our overall budget. So
That's what's like.
yeah, right. So this is starting a new fiscal year. Now, because we have, a November election, that's probably the biggest election we're going to see in a 4-year cycle. I am expecting that we're going to bite into this pretty heavily over the next, month or two, and then the rate of spending should drop off. We have a June primary that will be obviously more toward the end of the fiscal year. But I'm expecting to spend a decent chunk of this budget going into November, partially because we have staffing up. Almost in early voting, we're going to have a larger class of election officers, I think, for this round. So I think we'll end up spending maybe 50% of our budget by the end of November. Matter of fact, maybe a little more than that. We'll see.
At some point, we're going to want to move to have the city consider amendments to our budget, including bollards and including possible backup council system. What is the best time to do that?
I can, so I've just submitted the first quarter budget request. And that basically was based on the fact that the state continues to adjust the electoral board stipend and the registrar salary. So that budget request already went in. I did ask if we could add anything else onto that with this thought in mind. And I was told, no, that's all done. So I don't know if they're going to do a second quarter request or if it waits to the third quarter, but I can certainly inquire and see, what we might do.
If you would, because we should be considering that either at the October meeting or after the election.
And it's also possible we decide to spend, you decide to spend the money, and then we go back to the council and we say, we did this for a good reason, and we will want you to cover it, or we try and find some grant money. I actually have been talking with Doc a little bit about what kind of grant money can we get for some of these things. So we have to explore that a little further. But the timeline is very tight for this election. Yes.
Okay. Moving
Okay.
on.
Other questions on the budget? Anything else you want to talk about? Okay. Let's talk about our ballot order. So I did a little bit of analysis from previous elections, a couple presidential previously. I went back to 2012, looked at what happened in 2012, 2016, 2020. And essentially, these numbers are just turnout numbers. So even though 2020 was a little different election from how the ballots were counted, the turnout numbers obviously are still maybe the same in terms of actually just looking at turnout, not how people voted.
Can I interrupt you for just
Sure,
a second?
absolutely.
There was an email that suggested that when we get something like this in your report, it's going to be mentioned later in the agenda, that we go into detail when we get to the agenda item. Is that,
I'm
would that work?
hoping to present this here, and then you guys can, if you want, we'll roll it back to wherever you want to look at here, and you can make a decision based on what you see here. I just have 2 slides on this, and that's all that I had planned to present here.
Okay,
So looking at the projections, trying to figure out, okay, well, where do we stand? I actually noticed over the last few cycles that the turnout versus active voters has actually been declining. So I don't know if that's real or not. It may be that for whatever reason, we have more active voters showing their roles, and the numbers of turnout are staying the same, but just it's artificially deflated by that artificial or increase in active voters. But anyway, based on total voters, I said active, I mean total voters. So that drove the projection number down a bit. So if you, seems like 64% total at the bottom here, and these numbers here seem a little bit low, I would agree. But just looking at the numbers, that's what it came out to. So I did a couple of columns here just to think about, different scenarios, right? So the first scenario was, well, here's a projected number of voters, right, in each precinct. And based on that projection, the next column over, I said, well, if that's the number of voters, then this would be what we should order. Assuming that number is not, accurate, it's low, I did another calculation at say 90%, and did another calculation, which I think, talk to the Department of Elections, they're going to tell you make it 100%. Right? They're not worried about the budget; they're worried about making sure no one has any, lack of balance. Right? So I put those numbers on there. If you wanted me to come back and do another projection, based on another percentage, I could certainly do that. But I figured this would be at least enough for a discussion for you guys to think about and give me some feedback today.
Dan, one problem I see is that for 302, you're projecting 100% turnout. And I suspect that's because we have so many same-day registrations.
Yes. So that's an artificial number that I put it at 100% just because.
If we were to order 90% for that precinct,
Yep.
we might have a problem.
Yes, so it's entirely possible that we say, we'll do, let's just say we like the 90% number. We say, okay, 90% except for everything, except for 302. And we might even just say, well, look, how many freshmen are there on campus this year? This 4,000, right? Yeah, or even 4,500, maybe on that order. So I don't know that all of them are going to vote, but, just kind of the freshmen, let alone other people that might be on campus. Obviously a smaller number probably than that, but we might decide to bump that number higher, right? So that's why
That is going to be the challenge of same-day registration.
Yeah.
So we should consider that. in the ballot order.
I had a second slide here just to look at how we would break this out in terms of early voting, and we can return to the slide if you like, but I took some of the same numbers and then essentially said if I did a early voting ballot order at the different rates, then this would want to be looked at. So I do this just as a reminder to everybody that we do the ballot ordering in two tranches. We do it for early voting, and we'll get those in before September 20th, right, obviously. And then we'll go back and we'll make another order closer to election day. And one of the things that allows us to do is to make some projection about how the election's going and what the turnout's, possibly going to look like. And then I'll, as you know from previously, what I'll do is I'll look at what we have on hand. This is what we think we're going to end up with at the end of the day. And then figure out what our election day ballot will look like. So we kind of end up taking what we have left over, assuming there's some adding to that for the election day ballot order to get us to the right spot for the precincts.
Now, is there a different ballot for federal election for people voting from abroad?
There is. So right now, if you look on this chart, I've just put early voting, presidential only and federal only ballots on the right-hand two columns. I've only marked right now about 50 per precinct. And, that's obviously subject to discussion. But, I don't know in terms of history if we used more than that in any precinct or during early voting.
Do you know how many president-only or federal-only people are registered in each precinct?
I don't have that number right now. I do know that we've been getting federal only and presidential only FPCAs in. I suspect that.
But those are absentees that are mailed.
Yeah, but they will generally be email ballots,
Oh,
right? So my recollection of looking at most of those FPCA applications is that they're checked off to be not to be mailed. So I think the mail ballots will be, I don't know, not huge, not 200, 300, 400 across the whole jurisdiction. I think the mail ballots.
50 a precinct maybe work.
Yeah,
And we'll have a second shot.
and we'll have a second shot. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe Nancy's remembering, just thinking about, she's thinking maybe one regular mail ballot. I think at this point, most time when people put in FPCA, they are prepared to get an email ballot and then to print that and to vote it and put it into, the materials they have to put together to mail them back. So that's my recollection from previous elections, and that seems like it's the trend continuing with this election with the FPCAs I see.
Okay. Moving on.
Okay. Wanted to give you kind of a general idea about how we're looking for early voting. So this is just a little graphic which kind of has some notes around it. We are expecting to have around 3,000, maybe up to 5,000 voters in early voting. And if we get close to that 5,000 mark, we will have to think about how we handle that, because the voting machines only take 5,000. And the ballot bin, also gets to a certain point where it needs to be emptied. But we'll cross that bridge as we get there. Right now we've got 11 officers, election officers who have agreed to work and have some kind of schedule. Their hours are maybe 3 to 4 days a week, depending on what they can do. Some work a little less, some work a little more. Our plan is to have 3 poll books available at all times. So normally we will run 2 poll books at the front desk there. We're planning to run 3 and staff all 3 of those. We are running a morning and an afternoon shift for the most part, because we find people usually can do one or those or both, and it just helps get people to be able to work. We also, besides the people doing the check-ins, will have 1 or 2 election officers working as marking bay officers, scanner officers, and line management. So as you know, we generally have a line outside, and we let people in as there's availability at a poll book and a marking bay in order to vote. We did work with our buildings and grounds folks to get some tents, or I say tents are the wrong thing. It's those pop-up, what was it? Canopy. There you go. See that? The canopy. So we have a few of those, and we're getting ones that kind of seem like they're appropriate for what we want to do there. Keep rain off people if they happen to have be there in the rain. And so we'll see what the lines look like, but we're prepared for that to happen outside. And then we will do some training. So our plan right now is to do training for early voting on those who are going to be doing the poll book there September 13th and September 18th. We've only exclusively put election officers as contractors in our office because we feel like that's, gives them a level of accountability and training that they're going to have to take as part of the regular election officer work that makes it appropriate for their activity in the office. Any questions on this?
Okay, that's useful.
Okay, you also mentioned, David, that you wanted to talk a little bit about what's just taking place with the Republican Party swapping out a candidate. So as of 3 p.m., I received a notice from the signed statement, which is what has to happen in order to withdraw the name. This was actually done on an elect form. Withdrawing from Jeff Helgeson, withdrawing his name from the ballot for the Republican Party for Ward 3. As the code allows in 539, the party of the withdrawing candidate is permitted to offer another candidate as selected according to their party plan. And also the opposing party is permitted to put a candidate on the ballot of their choice if they've not already nominated one. In this case, we actually have a nominated candidate for Ward 3 from the opposing party. Also, this opens the door for an independent candidate who wishes to run. They have to be a qualified voter in Ward 3, and they must file the paperwork for ballot access. That's that deadline, which is mentioned here, is until 5 p.m. Friday, September 6th. So tomorrow at close of business. That is a deadline that was given to me by the Department of Elections because they're looking at their 60-day window before the election happens to get all this ballot. Ballot check will be done starting at this time, starting at Friday, September 6th at 5 p.m. It will start essentially to be vetted and then turn back around to us once they've approved the ballot, proofs to go to the vendors to print. So hopefully early next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, as soon as we can get it all done, we'll have a legitimate set of ballot proofs for every ballot style, and then we can get that to the printer. I did notify other potential independent candidates of the opportunity on my website, and we did actually also mention this to the press. So if there was anyone who wanted to file independent, they would be able to do that. They would have a very tight timeline to get all the paperwork filed. So at this point, I've had some inquiries about this, but no one has filed the paperwork necessary to have ballot access.
And they've got until 5 o'clock tomorrow.
And they have until 5 o'clock tomorrow.
In that vein, Mr. Kurt Deemer called me yesterday to verify what you had told me too, that he did not need to submit signatures.
Right.
That since he was being nominated, has been nominated. Providing signatures. WSET to announce this process as well. So I think we're well covered in terms of this.
Yeah, I received a 511 form from the party chair nominating and that essentially replaces the final signatures if you're filing this independent. So,
Okay, moving on to a
May I
political
ask a
project.
question? May I ask a-
yes.
Does that signature waiver apply to independent candidates?
No.
If somebody wanted to file, they would
No.
have to get the signature.
They do have to get the signatures, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's the. It's a party nomination or signatures. Okay. I have a list of ongoing projects. Once again, apologies about the size of this, made it as big as we can here. Some of these have been on the list for quite a while. Some of them have moved a little bit, which is good. Some of some we've taken off, so the ones that actually we closed last time, I took off. So we did finally get the EHP approval for the security grant, which we applied for well over a year ago. And now we're still thrashing through the dilemma of, in order to order equipment, we have to get the quotes from the vendor for the cameras and the cabling. So I was talking to Wes about that today. Of course, the prices all went up, so they don't match the quote that we got before. Plus, there's some additional thoughts around what equipment we exactly want. So, in addition, I think I sent you guys a note that in order to do all this, sure enough, we have to have an additional network switch. That also was not cheap. And I guess I'll tell you the same thing I told Wes, which is I'd like to find out who paid for the switch we have now and see if whoever paid for the switch we have now can pay for the switch that we need to get to maintain our infrastructure. I don't know if that'll be successful or not, but I will definitely inquire about that to see if we can make this part of the buildings and grounds activities opposed to just our own offices activity, our own office cost.
Are we replacing a switch?
So the question I said was, well, if you're gonna take a switch that I have now and give me another one, you're gonna give me a rebate on the switch that you're taking? Where's it gonna go, right? Who's gonna get that switch? So I don't know, the answer is I don't know the full answer to that yet, but I'm investigating what our options are. But, all things being equal, in order to take advantage of this grant, it looks like we would have to, invest in some equipment, some infrastructure in order to take advantage of this. And as you know, the deadline here is July of 2025. So end of this fiscal year, we have to have this all figured out, installed, paid for, everything done. So that includes the camera work and also the counter work that we're talking about as well.
At least we don't have a presidential primary.
Yes, and coming up in the spring, at least we don't have a couple of elections. So.
Okay.
Okay, so I had segregation of the duties document. We still like to keep this on our radar. I would love to get together a policy manual from the registrar's office perspective, and then actually also would like to get the list of policies that the board has put together, make sure that's all in one nice neat document. But anyway, this would be a kind of a precursor for me to do more work on the policy manual for the registrar to know what falls in my jurisdiction.
I'm going to put myself on the spot. I actually got a template from somebody else, and I'm hoping that I can have some time to work on it the rest of this month. So
Okay.
hopefully I'll have something to bring back to you.
That'd be great. I'd appreciate that. Page program restarted. I actually have a slide later on when you guys start talking about this a little bit. But we went ahead and reached out to the high schools and a bunch of other schools in the area to try and get the page program restarted. The truth is we're having a little bit of trouble even with the administration from LCS, putting out a little bit of a nudge to the schools, a little bit of trouble getting some feedback from various teachers. So we're still working on that, and we'll see where that gets to. But so far, we put the offer out there and chased some people, but have not got a lot of response yet. Also, we have a backup precinct review and approval. So that's something that I think that's put on you guys' plate. When you can work on that with me, we really want to have a list, even if it's if it reuses some of the existing precincts that are there. We want to have that backup list in place before our election coming up in November.
So that should probably be on the agenda for next meeting.
Yes, that'd be great if we could put that on the agenda. That'd be good.
I have a question on
Sure.
that. We have to get approval for our primary polling places. Do we or should we get approval for our backup polling places? Because I'm thinking in terms of the liability insurance, state board of elections. Is it something doable to say, hey, this is our polling places, but we also want you to approve our backup polling places so that if something happens, we're there. I mean, I don't even know if that's structured in the
Yeah,
way things are done.
right, I don't know if there's a
Nice
structure,
step.
I mean, that makes sense, but I don't know if there's a structure within, the way elect does it to actually line that up in advance. I can investigate that a little further, but it looks to me like in the event that we would go to a backup polling place, we would be submitting an emergency polling place change. Assuming we do that, before election day, but let's assume that, water main broke in front of one of our precincts and we do that a day ahead or 2 days ahead. I can put in an emergency polling place change, and then that would kind of become somewhat official. They would have to look at it and approve it or whatever. But if something happens election day, I don't know of a mechanism right now to list that with the Department of Health as a backup place.
Why don't you pursue that with the lab?
I can do that, yep.
See what's going on.
Yep, definitely do that.
Okay,
I will also want to talk about this meeting, but maybe also another agenda item about a full poll book, a renewal and replacement. I sent you guys a note to possibly have me arrange a demo of another poll book vendor for our next meeting. So if you're in favor of that, I will try to make that happen.
I'm of the opinion that we're at a break point where we either continue where we're going or we can conceivably go up. So I'd like to know what our options are.
Yep, okay. So I'm happy if you guys give a little bit of time the next meeting, I'll try to arrange that. I do expect the demo will take, half an hour at least. So just be aware that means that meeting will cover, a longer time.
well, yeah, we may want to, if we have too much to do on the next meeting, we may want to work it out
Okay,
in a separate meeting.
okay. That's fine. If you want to do that, that's great. But just kind of let me know your thoughts and I will try.
See what you can line up and see
Okay.
where we are.
Okay, fine. Sounds good. Precinct Route 301 relocation decision. I think we've held this off for a little bit. It's still on the list, but I think we've not decided to move on that yet. I do know you're going to be updating the voting system or approving the updated voting system security plan today, I expect. We have a relocation of precinct 304, which is actually sitting before city council, public hearing scheduled on May 10th. So I'm planning to present essentially the same material I presented earlier on, but hopefully that, any response from the public will be given at that meeting and they can approve that change. Now, in the
I
meantime,
don't think we should visit the polling place location that you would get until after the November 5th election.
yeah, the 301, you mean, right? Yeah, so
Or
301,
any others. that
Well,
we
we have to finish up 304,
Yeah.
but yeah, save anything other than 304 until after November.
yeah, and for 304, I went ahead and did submit the polling place change request with elect. They approved it on an emergency basis because they understand that we're going to be within the 60 days by the time this gets approved by city council. But they said we will need to come back and reapply for a permanent after the election, which is fine. So just a note that I have to do that once we get past the November election. I also put in a request for another laptop to use the precinct record listing terminal. They told me they required the laptop. but they
Wait,
have-
just back up to 304.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Next Tuesday, you didn't say this, but I see it's on here, that next Tuesday night at city council.
9/10, yes, that's
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, September 10th. Yes, that's next Tuesday night, city council. That's correct. Precinct record listing terminal, like I said, I've ordered that. It's come in, but it hasn't been delivered to me yet, so I'm expecting that. And that will be available for voters to look up, other voters in case they need to check something or have a challenge. That's just provided for in the code, and so we'll provide that. ADA compliance certification, that was actually due the beginning of this month, but I believe you guys have all done your work on that, and we'll be signing off on that. I think Betty needs to sign off on that today. And I'll turn that in as soon as we have that. And then we have an updated LCS agreement. I think you're going to be going over in your correct agenda today. So that's all I had in the projects that we have are my open items. In terms of announcements, just want to make sure everyone's aware that early voting begins for this next election on September 20th. We'll also be sending out absentee ballots at that time. We're using a vendor to do that as we've done in previous elections. And that drop point is in North Carolina at a regular drop point for USPS. So that usually gets bounced back here about a week after that September 20. Well, they usually put them in on Saturday, so the 21st, usually within that week, we'll start getting ballots delivered to voters. The last day to register to vote is October 15th in this election. Last day after that, it's going to be an STR if you want to vote, and it's the same day registration. Last day to apply for an absentee ballot is October 25th. And of course, same day registration starts on October 16th. And we're going to be doing ballot proofing beginning this weekend, so we can do a ballot warrant next week. Good. That's all I have for my report.
Excellent, thank you. I don't think we need a motion to accept the report. I think we can go on to the agenda. Old business, update on PEACH program. Who's reporting on that?
I do have a slide on that, so I can share with that, or maybe let Julie share, because this is in her
Right.
Like Dan has mentioned earlier, we have had some just small roadblocks in connection with most of the schools. So here's the full list of schools that I reached out to, including multiple homeschool co-ops in the area. We then were able to connect with one of the assistant superintendents, because I was not receiving any word back by email or phone from the principal. UC Last or Heritage. So school administration in Lynchburg has approved the program. They even then forwarded an email to both principals and requested that they contact us. Hey, this is a great opportunity, like please connect with them. I then followed up that email with 2 personal phone calls and voice messages. Neither one of them answered. And then Dan also called both the next day without answer. So we're still pending replies. I haven't received any replies from any other schools that reached out to me, or any co-ops. So we are waiting to see if any of them will reach back out to us. If not, I am tempted to just go in person to local high schools and sit there to listen.
It would be useful if you could connect with social study teachers or
Yeah, that's the intent. We just have to make sure that the school will allow them to do first. So now that, especially for LCS, we have approval from school administration. It should be an easy connect. I do have an election officer who has children in church, or who had recently graduated, and has asked and is willing to go and talk there as well. So she told me that she was push that interest. But we've reached out a lot.
I've had one inquiry from a school social studies teacher to talk to the class.
We've also, I would love to do some flyers for it too. We did have another election officer email me and ask for the flyers down to the school. So we have it posted on our website as well as I emailed it to them as well. So I have some EOs that are trying to help through the community. So we have placed flyers around. I have the application online. I've also sent those resources to these principals. None of them will get back to them.
Email. Sure.
Have you talked to Shannon Wheelton? She used to be an EO, and she's an administrator in one of these homeschools. I forget what it is.
No, this is her comments.
But she knows all the other homeschool people, so.
I mean, we're tempted to start reaching out to social study teachers directly, but we really don't want to go around. You know, we feel like we don't want to insult
Exactly.
the administration by going around them, but, you know, any personal contacts that you might have, if you would help with that. You know, I know Michael Bremers, like you mentioned, is trying to help us with that as well. So any of the election officers might have an in with the teacher, now that we have, you know, some air cover with their administration, hopefully we can get some traction.
Okay, anything more on the eighth program? Let's, relocation of 304, do we need to report anything more on that?
I think we're waiting on the city council meeting next Tuesday, and once that happens, I will be sending out notices to, I put this in the slide here. Yes, I did. Essentially, this is what I mentioned before, but I'm putting out notices to voters in the last week of September, the week of September 29th. I've already talked to BMS about doing this with us. And so I have the confirmation notices. Actually, the electors generated those based on the fact it's a emergency precinct change. So
How would the voters receive notice?
yeah, so what happens is, once the elect approves this, they will go into Veris and they'll actually generate the notices. It's just a whole set of PDFs. And I will take those and I will deliver them over to BMS, who does mailing through the city. And we'll get the bulk rate that we get from those kind of mailings. And they will send all that out. There's 2,000, I think just over 2,000 notices that we have to send out.
I know we did it when we moved over to Bass, but I think they just passed a law that says you have to put signage at the old precinct,
Correct.
sending people to the new precinct. So I'm assuming that the signage is in the works to go with.
Yes, that's a note, actually, is we need to make sure we, now, I would like Compassion to help us with this, but I don't know, but they will have to let us put signs there somewhere. Because that's what the code says, so.
Hopefully they will volunteer so that we don't have to tell them they must.
Right, I was, that's a conversation I actually had in my mind scheduled to talk to the pastor over there, see if we
Yeah.
can get them to help us with that. But yes, but we're required to make sure that that's signage.
Otherwise, you're gonna have a lot of people wandering around on election
Well,
day.
right, exactly. So I think there's a motivation, reason for them to be motivated to help voters find the right spot. So,
Okay, let's move on to new business. That's quite regular. And the first item was the policy for electronic participation in board meetings. And this is arisen from amendments to the Virginia Code that allow us to have remote participation and all virtual meetings where we have meetings that are all virtual. But we have to adopt a policy and readopt it each year. We have to have a policy in effect. Now, as we previously discussed, I went to our listserv and solicited policies from other electoral boards. And I also went to the state board to get their policy. The state board policy for virtual and remote participation is a very explicit one. I decided that we might as well be explicit. So I adopted their policy for our use. And that was what was posted on their site. Doug has suggested I number it correctly. and criticized me for being wordy. The policy is in fact.
That's not exactly what I said.
No. I called it prolix. So it's a policy that deals with all alternatives really, and what arises, and it describes how people request participation remotely, board members do, and keeping our meetings open for people to participate remotely as well as participants as we do. Are there any questions or concerns about this policy?
Well, you and I talked on page 3, section 4,
Mhm,
the fourth bullet up from the bottom.
mhm.
It says no more than 2 members of the board shall be together in any one remote location unless that remote location is open to the public to physically access it. And since there's only 3 of us, we'd have a quorum and we wouldn't have to have the public there. If we just carry over what the state had, so I don't know if we
Well,
want to do anything about
We
that.
do have to have the public there,
Well-
accessibility if it's a forum meeting. So.
So we're covered other places in here.
Right, by the meeting law and by FOIA, if we're meeting together, we have to have it in a place where people can participate. It would be a violation of law not to do this. And that's why it's in there. And it covers, I mean, that is what a meeting is.
Yeah. I'm only concerned that, and I like the whole thing, I'm gonna vote in favor of it, it's just that one bullet point gives me pause because taken by itself, it creates a confusion factor. But the other language in here, I think, would outweigh it, so.
I think the law makes us do this. And it would be not good to say, either eliminate this and believe that we can have two people in a location and not have some sort of access because we are going to have a meeting.
Yeah, it's just the wording for a board with 3 total members
I understand
is a little awkward, but.
it is, but certain other awkwardnesses here. Lawyers have a way of drawing that.
Well, it's one of those things where we can start using it, and if we need to make amendments to our specific policy, we can make them as we go along. But
Well, the important things to note are that if any of us want to participate in a meeting and have a good reason to participate, it sets up a procedure for doing that. And it's not a very cumbersome procedure.
Right.
We simply have to give notice and state our reason. There's not even a deadline. So I think it's important to have that in place that we can do it and allow it.
yeah, I mean,
To enable us, and it's very doubtful that we would have it all virtual.
Yes.
But it does allow us that possibility. Any readiness to adopt this?
I'm very ready.
Okay, is there a motion? I move.
Okay, I'll second it.
All in favor?
The motion is that we adopt this policy as written.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's adopted. Okay, moving on to the voting system security program. Where are we on that? We are certifying.
All right, you just need to sign the letter. The beginning of the month.
Yeah, there has been actually a letter attesting to the security of our system signed by the.
Betty, there's just some page number issues on page, 4 and 5 are labeled 3 and 4, right? So,
On the policy.
yeah, yeah, just, if you don't mind going through. Yeah, look at the top of that one that you just held up. So you get a couple lines bleeding over, and you got 3 there, and 4's up here.
I see.
But anyway, I mean, it's simple format, just before we make it
It's
official.
words.
Show you who's the boss.
Okay, voting system security program, we're submitting our certification.
Correct.
Correct. So we don't need to pass a motion. ADA compliance, I think all of us board members and staff conducted our compliance review of all our precincts, is that correct?
And including Heritage High School. Done ADA
Yes, correct.
on that as well.
Okay, so for the record for this meeting, we are certifying our ADA compliance that's vetted.
That does have to be by majority vote.
For the ADA compliance. Okay.
Shall we have a motion approving our requires certification of ADA compliance.
Just trying to think of the language.
It
So,
says,
so what we're doing is we have to send a notice to somebody.
we have to, we need to vote, we need to confirm by a majority vote that, that we have, that we're ADA compliant.
I move that we confirm that we are ADA compliant after our review of our business.
And I'll second that.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's passed. We have because of the heritage change,
High school.
high school change, we re-reviewed our polling place agreement. Dan, how did we change the polling place agreement?
Yeah, really, right now, the only change is that we took out, well, we're not thinking that we added in to the agreement, Heritage High School. So,
Well, we also had some discussion about the scheduling at the beginning of the year
yes,
to make sure that they knew about primaries particularly.
right, presidential.
Not
one.
school holidays.
Yeah.
But this doesn't really affect us in 2025.
Right,
So,
As I recall, the language, I think in paragraph 6, which was the one where I raised a question about, we're supposed to tell them by January of the year when the elections are, and considering they make their schedules
2 years.
18 months out, we need to remind them when we're going to have elections. And so I think Matt Friedman added a line to the effect of they will work together, in good faith to make sure that all of this is taken care of. So it was.
yeah, it creates a problem because we really don't know if there are going to be primaries or not for the state elections.
But it's not until late June, so
Yeah,
usually
so
school's
the
out
school's
anyway.
out. It's
Except
really
for summer.
it's really the president.
Yeah.
So are you saying that the dates, is that part of the revision?
It is not written in the revision. We did have some emails back and forth talking about the fact that January is not enough time for the schools to adjust their schedules. So they added to that we would work together in good faith to make sure that we let them know when the elections are and primary, whatever. When we need the buildings, inadequate time to get the job done. I'd have to go back and look and see what the actual language is, but I think it's paragraph 6. Yeah.
Okay, we should have a motion to approve the revised polling place agreement to use with LCS.
I'll make that motion
Okay. Motion is
to approve the amended polling place agreement with Lynchburg City Schools.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
It's passed. Let's move on to the campaign sign issue. As you all may remember, we had a problem in our last election where we had zealous signage in at least 1 or 2 precincts.
And some upset polling place
Voters.
people, yes.
So, shall we discuss what our response has been? I think, Doc, you were the author.
Yeah. For the benefit of those who are here, do you mind if I just read it? Okay. And basically, it's a statement. It's not a policy. It's not a procedure. It's strictly a statement because we have limited abilities in this particular area, as you'll see from the wordage. The following information is provided for all candidates and their supporters who plan to place campaign signs or hand out literature at polling places on election day. In Lynchburg, polling places are either on private property, city school property, or at the library. As a result, neither the Electoral Board nor the General Registrar have jurisdiction over the actual property. We ask that you show courtesy to the owners of the properties we use as polling places. These acts of courtesy include, but are not limited to, the following. While on the property, maintain civility in dealing with all voters and all campaign workers, no matter which candidate they support. Post only temporary yard signs that can be pushed into the ground by a single person. Post a reasonable number of signs rather than an obnoxious number. I think you had some, we can come back to that. If you wish to use larger signs, 4x4 or 4x8, for example, please get written permission in advance from the property owner's representatives. Some owners will not give permission, so please abide by their wishes. Written permission should include how many larger signs may be posted and in what locations. Many properties have underground utilities. If one of your people were to cut a buried fiber line, your cost to replace it could be quite high. If you drive a stake into a buried electrical line, including those that feed lamps on poles, it could kill you. Property owners should not have to take their time to clean up your mess, so please remove all of your signs by 8:00 a.m. the morning after Election Day. Please remember that private property owners do not have to allow you to post any signs on their property. They allow it as a courtesy to you. Please return the courtesy by adhering to their wishes and cleaning up your signs after the election. And then Lynchburg City School locations. Our agreement with LCS states, if LCS agrees, then candidates and political parties may post campaign signs at the polling place in accordance with state law, starting on the evening prior to an election. All such signs must be removed by the poster by 8:00 a.m. on the day following the election. The LCS policy manual states the following regarding political advertising. School facilities or equipment may not be used as a means of producing or disseminating to the community any materials that advertise or promote a political party, a political cause, or the candidacy of an individual for public office. Students and employees of the board shall not be permitted to distribute campaign literature within the school or on school grounds. When school buildings or grounds are used as polling places, the prohibition noted above on posting signs and disseminating materials shall be waived on the day of the election. Thank you for your cooperation.
Yes, I'd recommend one change that instead of the word noxious, we use, should not be excessive, should not be excessive, with excessive to be defined by the property owner.
So we want to change the word obnoxious to excessive.
Excessive.
Oh, but obnoxious has so much more character.
It does. See, some signs, caricatures of people.
Yeah. And you want to add after that, as determined by the property owner?
As determined by the property owner. We don't want to be in a position
Yeah.
of becoming excessive.
And each of these concerns was presented to Dan and me by an actual property owner. So this is just addressing that, and I think Dan had gotten some other complaints earlier from other people.
And I think the plan is to give this to the candidates once a candidate has declared with Dan. Is that correct, Dan?
Yes, once I have once the ballot proofs are out, we'll have a final list of candidates. And now, I know sometimes campaigns are very light on their
Staffing.
staffing or presence, so I struggled, I think, last election to nail down how to contact one of the campaigns, but we'll figure that out.
And you know, it's not a law, and it's not, if you don't do this, you can't get elected. I mean, you know, this is just a statement of, you know, this is a courtesy that it used to be we would do without it. I mean, you just pass it along. Oh, you're running, well, you got to do this stuff when you're out there, or you learn from somebody else who's campaigning. But some of that didn't get passed along to some people this last time. So we're just creating a statement that will help people understand what they need to do. And Dan had asked me what other electoral boards were doing, and we had a regional VIVA meeting out in Bedford a week or so ago. And I passed this out and I said, what are you guys doing? Nothing, can I have a copy of that? So apparently we are again leading the way. And I did verify with the president of VIVA that yes, the property it is private property, and yes, the property owners can prevent people from putting signs on their property, even though it's being used as a polling place. So hopefully it'll be a happy situation when we're done.
Well, I think our theory is to adopt this as a handout. The board endorses this as a handout to the candidates. And so can we have a motion today?
I will be happy to make the motion that this statement as amended be approved for the purpose of handing out to the candidates and their campaigns by the registrar.
Second.
Any unreadiness? All in favor?
Aye.
Passed. Okay, we now have election officers. We have a number of applications, and we have, incidentally, for the record, we have how many not acted on that are just coming this week? 13.
I don't know, because some of them want to work in another county, so.
We have a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And we will be approving more possibly at our October meeting. But for now, we do have 39, is that correct?
Mhm.
On our list to be approved. They've been screened.
I have a clarification question, 2 questions.
Sure.
Are these all new people?
These are all new.
Okay, so these are all 1-year appointments, which would take them through the end of February 2025. Okay. And,
That's 1 year.
well, I mean, but it's
Yeah.
during the year. but-
Everybody that's appointed and when, that'll be on the list, when these are added, they all expire.
That's true. We did have some that we put to a 2-year, but, and we can look at that later on. But did you tell me that one of these has said that they would not be available in November?
Yes.
Should we go ahead and delete them from the list?
No, I think we should approve them and then we'll ask if they'll re-up in February. That will keep them on the list.
Okay, I'm fine. I'm just asking how we wanted to handle that. So, okay, both of my questions have been answered.
Okay, Betty, maybe it's appropriate for you to make the motion.
All right, I would like to move that, appoint these 39 election officers. Also, 15 of them asked to represent the Democrat Party, and the Democrat Party chair approved them. And then 11 asked to represent the Republican Party, and I haven't heard back yet on those.
Okay, so until they are approved by the Republican Party.
We can
yeah,
still, we can still
list
appoint them.
We can
List
appoint
them
them,
as-
but
um, So I would, I'd make a motion that we approve 39.
do you have a second motion? All in favor?
All right.
It's passed. And I do note that now we have 207 election officers, which is pretty good for this next election.
Yeah. So if you know somebody who wants to be election officer, send them on.
Please.
You know,
Let's move on to the next item on the agenda, the ballot order. There refers to the report of the registrar.
Dan, can you put that back up?
I should.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Um, Now we talked about, I always remember the special election in January of 2016 when the Electoral Board and the registrar all got to go visit the State Board of Elections and explain why they didn't have enough ballots for that special election. And they brought that to mind because they just thought it was just another election. They're just, I don't know, for somebody for state senate, but apparently they missed someplace that there was determining control of the Virginia State Senate. That was going to be, it goes one way, one party gets, it goes the other way. So there was a lot of interest. I think they ordered like 15% ballots and they had like 17 to 20% turnout. So I don't have a problem with putting a lot of blank ballots, certain quote, after the election. You know, you kind of like to get it relatively close, but I'm sweating on election day. I have too many other things to do. So just, you know, that's just my look at the 64%.
I was wondering what it was.
We have another,
Got to get that.
there we go.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
so
think
you're saying
100%, I think 100, the 64%, I
It's
don't think
too
is
low.
enough, way too low. I don't think we need 100% because there are people that are just not going to vote. I'm not sure we need 90%, but it's a number to start from. And the other thing is 302. I think we need to take a good look at what we're going to do there.
Yes,
Especially since they tell me that they're really pushing to get them signed up ahead of time so we don't have to do same-day voting. And if they do, or same-day registration. So if they're doing that, that'll give us a better idea as well.
even so, we have to place the order, first order now.
Yeah, yeah, 50% of projections. I would say let's place an order for 50% of the 90%. And then first week of October, we should place a remainder of it based upon what we're seeing.
That's about.
I think there may be reason to go to 100%.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue going 100% for 302. I'm just curious about,
Not that
I'm curious about 403. Because you got University of Lynchburg there. There's a couple thousand college students there. I don't know how involved they're going to get. I don't think there's all that many. Was it less than 1,000 at Randolph?
Yeah, but a lot of those are Virginians.
So they're already going to be
They're
registered.
already going to be registered either here or they're going to go to
I've reached out to my contact at Lynchburg University, and I haven't gotten a response back yet, so I'm actually trying to figure out if that person is still, you know, in charge of their outreach there. I haven't gotten anything back from Lynchburg University yet, so I still
You
don't.
know, I was talking to the president of Randolph, who said the reason for their almost record freshman class this year is that their recruitment has been primarily in Virginia, and they've done very well in Virginia. So these are going to be people who are registered in Virginia.
You can count on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna absentee vote. Sorry, I've been involved with the Randolph Focus Group. They are making an effort to get students to
To
register
vote.
in Lynchburg.
Okay.
So,
So that's going to be.
but there, it's less than.
Well, my question is, Carol, when you say that, my question is, are they getting them to change their registration from wherever home is to Lynchburg?
They're encouraging
Yeah, those would be not on this list. So that may lead to a vote in our, what,
Nancy,
Nancy may have some input to this.
If I may interrupt, there has been some voters that have already registered from Randolph Macon, that has already signed up. And that has done theirs through the DMV. So that's
they're in our list.
they're in your list, but I do believe that we are going to have more, that's going to be following after this list. Only reason being is because, as Carolyn has said, and she has came to me to let me know that they are pushing them to get registered. So, and there might be some that, even though they live in Virginia, that, they have not even thought about voting yet.
right,
So,
Well, that's exciting. I
Yeah.
think that bulks up our 90%.
which is why I think we should get 50% of the 90%. And then when we get around to that first week of October, since the last day for registration, non-same day registration is the 15th. So we get around to that week, then we can put in the remainder of our order someplace in that first half of October. Whatever you need to do, make sure they're here in time.
Okay, I don't think we need to pass a motion on this, Dan, but I think we are pushing you toward the 90%.
Okay, that's fine.
And with some continued thought about especially 3 and 2.
One other question, do we know what our absentee ballot request number is?
Yeah, we were talking about that. So based on, previous election and then kind of counting the requests that have come in, we've been getting a steady stream of absentee ballot requests come in. I would say, I'm going to estimate, you can tell me if I'm off, but 30 a week, maybe, something like that over the last month or two.
and right now I have like 100 and something that's in the hopper that I have to process, so.
And that's in addition to the annual absentees.
Right.
So it looks like the number of absentee ballot requests are going to be higher. And since those are generated from our vendor, those would not necessarily come out of these numbers.
Correct. The vendor will actually, print the ballots and then, send the ballots. So that is outside of the numbers that are here. I think it would be anywhere 3,500.
Yeah, and, I'm just talking through the whole thing to make sure that we're covering all the angles that we're looking at. So, yes, as David says, you're raising on one side and you're lowering on the other side, but I still think we ought to shoot for the 90%. The 50% of the 90% and see where we are in a month.
Okay, any more discussion on that? I don't think there's a motion needed. And lastly, on the new business training, Dan, what are you visualizing in terms of training for election officers?
So as I mentioned in an email to you, we need to do, we're training for pretty much everybody, but in different categories. So we have returning officers that we need, training is appropriate for them. We're going to have a new officer class, this number that we just approved today plus additional. And since we won't be putting that additional beyond what's here in the pipeline until October 5th, that means we'll definitely have to have some new officer training earlier or later, closer to the election. We're going to have to do training for CAC. That's not too substantial, but we'll definitely have to do training for chiefs and assistant chiefs. So some of the, and we need to do, I think we've decided kind of previously policy-wise that we do a hands-on session for everybody and a lecture session for everybody. So with, say 200 plus officers, right? That's a substantial number of training hours that we have to accommodate. So I'm encouraging us to consider moving forward in September reasonably aggressively to try and start on that. Maybe we get some of the lecture out of the way for a couple of sessions for new officers. that are coming in. And if you, I don't know, you have to decide what you're gonna require of returning officers, gotta think about that. But certainly with new machines, I think it'd be good to have everybody put hands on a new machine.
I think we're required by code to train them on any changes, and there were several changes in the code, so everybody has to at least be trained on that.
Okay.
And I know that there are some things that need to be in the chief's training, particularly about filling out forms. And I really think we need a section on federal-only ballots, because I was introduced to federal-only ballots when I was told I needed to have them in hand, and I had no idea what they were. So I think we would help the chiefs if we explain to them what
absolutely.
federal-only ballots are.
Absolutely. So,
If you want to mention what that one,
There are some people who are registered in Virginia, but they are not, for whatever reason, allowed to vote in local elections, only for federal office because they are living abroad. So those are federal-only ballots. And we don't have a whole lot of them, although I think the numbers are going up this year.
Yeah.
And going back to the special election 2016, I bet this is going to be one of the most populated elections, the way of voters coming in that you've seen, because there is huge interest. So
far.
well, people are still going to show up and vote.
Yeah.
So,
He's expecting 5,000 of them to swing by his office
But-
before election.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
So Dan, we also need to reserve the Miller Center and/or the IT center.
right. So for you large venues to do training, those are two places that
Yeah.
have been successful in the past.
Doc is going to be out of town in September.
right.
Jenny and I have some availability to help with training. I think you need to come up with a possible schedule and give us some ideas of some very specifics. And then we sort of plug into that.
Yeah, I mean, once I get back, my dad's turning 104, so I'm going to be gone for that. Well, hopefully, excuse me. But anyway, once I get back, I have very few time slots when I'm not available. So I mean, if you wanted to do small groups on the equipment, I could come in and help with that if we have something set up downstairs to do that. And
Yeah, we'll be, because of the size of the downstairs room, our experience in hands-on, we try to limit that size of that class to about 15. Just because if you get more than that in the room, it's little, they don't really get the focus that they need.
so,
So,
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I could come in and do a bunch of those,
okay,
maybe 10 at a time, take them to the poll book, take them to the new
Yeah.
equipment. Yeah, so I don't mind helping with that for the hands-on stuff. Chief's training is going to be towards the end of October, not a problem with that. We've got the PowerPoint from last year. I think some tweaking would put that together for the new people. And then we just need to take a look at what needs to be changed, because the laws have changed for the new election officer training, and how much of that do we need to go in and review and help the returning election officers. And the other thing, I think we need to look at training for people on how to do same-day registration, because you're not going to do that in some of these places with just the chief and the assistant chief.
Right.
So I think we need to have some same-day registration, quote, certified people available, particularly at 302, maybe 403, just depending upon where we think we might have it.
We're really going to have to concentrate on our chiefs and deputy chiefs to help them process the forms at the end of the day.
Right.
And because we really, as we found out in the recount process, does become highly important.
Yep.
So, Doc, why don't you go over the slides and see if there's anything special that pops out at you, and share those with us.
Okay. I will do it remotely.
yeah, I think you can do that from wherever you are. I mean,
Yeah.
I think if you guys are gonna, I think it's a great idea if you look at the curriculum and revise it as it seems like it's necessary for this round. And then I'm happy to work on getting some scheduling, thoughts out there.
I think you and staff need to come up with some fairly specific schedules.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we encouraging especially our new election officers to take the test online?
Yes. I will notify the new officers tomorrow by email that they've been appointed and give them the link to the online training by Elect and send them the link for the background check.
Good.
And then ask them if they're available in November.
One
Just in
of
case.
one other thought.
And for October.
I think Betty came up with this idea. She had got a couple of our really experienced chiefs to do part of the training.
Also, I think we should probably do some of the hands-on during the day. I think a lot
yes.
of our election officers are
Yeah, I mean,
available during the day.
I can be available many days.
Okay,
So that's what I'm saying.
Yep.
I have more times I am available than I'm not. Just
Okay.
let me know ahead of time so I can schedule around it.
okay,
But, and I think, I can think of 2 or 3 of our chiefs that I think would be really good. Even for some of the lecture work, just let them know what we want them to talk about and just go from there.
Okay, anything more on training right now? I think we've got some direction, but we need to get moving.
Yeah.
At this point in the meeting, we open it up for public comment. We have 5 comments already. Does anyone have any comments that they'd like to make? Carolyn?
I just wanted to point out, going back to the approval of the election officials, that I don't think it's best practice to approve election officials as party affiliates before the party chair has given their stamp of approval.
It's my understanding that we approved them as non-affiliated.
Until the party chair.
Because
Yeah, I don't think that's good practice. I think if you're going to have concerns about which party affiliation they actually are going to represent, you don't approve anybody until the party chair has said, yes, these people belong to the party.
And while I don't necessarily think we need to respond to every comment here, we've had our schedule collapse on us for the November election because of the count we went through and other things. And so it's not an excuse, but I understand what you're saying. It's not a good practice. Other comments?
Keep going.
Molly?
I'm going to do voter registration at Marvin Bass Elementary School on their back to school night. So will sample ballots be available beginning next week?
Once we have the ballot proofs approved and vendors have, gotten all that in order, we can certainly get ballot proofs, sample ballots, ready. They should be ready at the same time that the ballot proofs are ready. So, but I'll have to download that. I'll have to set that up and make them available to you. I normally try to do that on the website. I have to get it on colored paper, so some logistics there. But the date you want, the 12th, is that what you said? Yes. Ideally, yeah, I should be able to do that. Just look at the calendar.
That's good.
So the letter that the notice that you're going to send out to voters in the ward where they're going to be voting at Bass instead of First Christian Church.
That letter went out in the last election, actually. So there's no more letter going out. They already got a confirmation last election that change took place.
So I could have a copy of that notice too.
We got new voter cards
Yeah,
sent to them,
right, they got,
and they voted there in June. Yeah, because the chief is
The
here.
ones who
I
do it.
just feel that if I'm there and saying, it's been moved and people start questioning me, I like to have
Oh.
a thing that says,
Yeah, it's
so
on,
I don't have to say I know what I'm talking about.
yeah, it's
Which I
actually,
don't always.
it's actually on
But
the
you do.
registrar's website. It's on the registrar's website, so I've actually kept that notice up there on the website. So if you just go to the landing page on the website, it's there. You can just tell them to, you can confirm it's there.
Then I have a question about something I'm wondering about. If it's hard to get interest in people serving as pages, why do we want to have pages?
Because, in the past few elections, we've had a shortage of election officers, but pages can stand at the door and greet people, can hold the door open for people in precincts where you can't see the parking lot from inside. A page could stand there and let the chief know that maybe there's a curbside voter, or something like that. So they can do things, they can't touch ballots and stuff like that, but they can do a lot of footwork, legwork. that-
So we need their help.
Yeah, and they can learn about the process.
I just wondered because,
If you've seen some of our precincts, it's hard to see who's at the curb or the doors are closed. We really need
Same.
you're encouraging people to get interested in elections early.
Yes, Jeff Rosner for the Lynchburg Democratic Committee. I have comments on two topics. The first topic is on two statements about how the absentee ballot drop box was handled in the past, that is, before the June 2024 primary. From the Lynchburg Republican City Committee Facebook page, June 22nd, quote, "It has been reported to us that evidence came to light during the central absentee precinct cap that the formerly Democrat-led electoral board allowed ballot box manipulation for years," unquote. The other statement from the Peter Alexander for City Council Facebook page, June 22nd, quote, "Election staff confirmed that it had been standard practice to allow the ballot drop box to be stuffed until Friday, which violates Virginia law," unquote. The electoral board chair and the registrar have confirmed there is no evidence for the supposed past actions described in these statements. The Republican committee and Peter Alexander could have found out the truth about past absentee ballot processing before making these statements. The Republican committee and Peter Alexander should provide retractions of their statements. They should apologize to the present and former electoral board members, both Republicans and Democrats. They should also apologize to the present and former registrars. The second topic is the timing of the withdrawal of a city council candidate. This has been in the works for a long time. If the decision not to run for re-election had been announced in March or earlier, one or more new candidates might have filed for the primary. Also, announcing the withdrawal on September 2nd left little time for independent candidates to file documents, including 125 petition signatures by the September 6th deadline. All of this is perfectly legal, but is it democratic?
Thank you. All I can say as chair of the board is we board members know that we're on the hot seat for all of this stuff. And we are very careful not to take one side or the other, even though we know about things that are going on sometimes that may be public issues. raising these issues and other people raising issues with the board to make sure that the process is honest and transparent. Ballot, voting. Any other comments? Thank you very much. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So,
Second.
All in favor?
uh,